Let me talk to you. Let me talk to you about the death of Balder, which I believe is one of the most beautiful myths in the Nordic pantheon. And it's important we talk about it because it's often overlooked. Why it's overlooked? Well, these myths, we didn't hear them from our pagan ancestors because all our ancestors, our pagan ancestors, were converted or killed by Christianity. The only reason we know about the Nordic myths is because there was a Christian monk and who wrote it down. But there's also always a discussion between pagans because he was a Christian. Did he write it down exactly as it was, or did he put a little Christian sauce? Did he sprinkle some Christianity on top of the myth? And if so, where does that pop off? And the death of Balder is the myth that often gets discredited the most. Because why? The death of Balder is a story about a beautiful, perfect god who dies and is then reborn again. Sounds awfully familiar. So people often see this as a way of Christianizing the Nordic myths. But I'm here to tell you that's not true, and it's actually my favorite myth and the most beautiful of myths. And that's also because if you understand the true meaning of it, you can understand the true meaning of cycles. And if you implement that in your life, you will be so much wiser. I also feel like every time I say about a myth, this is my favorite myth. I don't know if you've ever watched your favorite TV show, the DVD and the director's commentary of your favorite TV show, and then every episode the director says, "This is my favorite episode." That's how I feel with Nordic myths. Every time I talk about one, this is my favorite myth. But okay, that's why it's important. The second reason, I'm part of the Tribe of the Fox jaartraining, meaning the Stam van de Vos, the Tribe of the Fox. I'll link YouTube and the website in the description below. They give courses on animism and paganism. And at the time of recording, we've just passed the highest point for the sun, the midsummer. And when it's midsummer, we talk about Baldr. So in this course, we talked about Baldr and we talked about the myth. And together we rediscovered the meaning of this myth. And it cemented this once again as one of my favorite stories. If you don't know, Baldr is the son of Frigg and Odin. And it is beautiful. He is known as the shining one, the radiant one. Just completely beautiful and everybody loves him. Great. So Frigg is a really good mother. And she's afraid that something will happen to this perfect child of hers. So she goes around the 9 worlds and she makes everything swear an oath that they will never harm Baldr. But of course she forgets one thing. The tiny little mistletoe. And it doesn't really matter. It's a tiny little mistletoe. So it doesn't matter. You know who figures that out? Loki, of course. Loki figures out that she forgot that. So Loki goes around and he gets that mistletoe. And it's actually important that Baldr doesn't die, because Odin, in all of wisdom, knows that if Baldr dies, that will be the beginning of the end. And his fated end that he fears, his death at the Ragnarok, will become a reality. So Baldr is practically immortal, and all the gods are having fun with him. So they're throwing axes and stones at his face, and everything just bounces off. It's like Looney Tunes in there. Gods are having great fun. But then Loki comes in with the mistletoe, and he puts a little mistletoe on a spear, and he gives it to the blind brother of Baldr named Hodur. And he directs Hodur how to throw it, and Hodur throws it, and you've guessed it, he kills Baldr. All the gods and everybody in the 9 world weeps. So Baldr goes to the underworld, to Hela, Loki's daughter. And because everybody is so sad, Odin sends somebody to negotiate with Hel. Says, listen, we need him back. He is the shining one, the radiant one. He's so beautiful. Everybody loves him. The whole planet weeps. So Hel says, okay, if the whole planet weeps, I want you to go around the world and ask everybody. And if everybody will shed tears for Baldr, you can have him back. Of course, everybody weeps. But of course, there's one elderly woman somewhere in the forest which is actually not an elderly woman, which is actually Loki in disguise that doesn't weep. And therefore Baldr stays dead. And this is the beginning of the end for the gods. So what does this lovely story mean? Well, it means everything. The Nordic myths basically tell a story if you put them all in the right order, from beginning to end. It begins with the creation of life itself, the creation of the planet by Odin, Vili, and Ve, by slaying the world Ymir, and it ends with a Ragnarok, kind of like the Nordic apocalypse. But it's also said that after Ragnarok, Baldr will be the first one to be reborn, and life will start anew. So it's a cycle. But what cycle is it? It's a small cycle, a big cycle. Here's the thing. I think that our ancestors understood cycles so profoundly that in this story you can recognize every cycle. It doesn't matter how big, how small. So, great. How do we do it? First of all, Baldr. What does he symbolize? Well, he symbolizes, well, not Jesus Christ. He symbolizes the sun. His name literally translates to the shining one. So it's a story about somebody who always shines and that everybody loves, but dies and is reborn. So is it like guaranteed that Baldr is the sun? It's not guaranteed, but it's heavily implied. But he is the sun, and yet he is more than the sun. He is the personification of beauty. And when he dies, it's the beginning of the end. Now this is very important. It's the beginning of the end for the whole cycle and even for the gods themselves. So this cycle excludes nothing. But I think you can extrapolate this further. Because if you see Baldr as the god of beauty, and we just had midsummer, so Baldr is at its most beautiful, and he starts to die. What do you see? It's not only the sun. Now it's midsummer, so everything is just in bloom, fully. What happens in about a month's time, there are no more flowers that grow naturally on the grass, that grow naturally in the trees. So there's beauty that disappears, and that's the first sign. That's Baldr taking its leave. Well, it's taking its leave, but it's also taking its leaves, literally. Because after the flowers, what starts to die are the trees, and everything turns yellow, and everything turns dark, until everything becomes midwinter. Everything is icy, and nothing grows anymore. But you can extrapolate that in every cycle in your life. We can say that about Western civilization, because we used to make buildings that were incredibly beautiful. Visit any European city and you are overrun by tourists every year who still flock to our cities to see how beautiful they were. We make things of beauty. But what do we make nowadays? The only thing we seem to build are data centers and distribution centers. These very efficient black boxes. That's also, by the way, why I don't wear a smartwatch, but I wear a old style analog watch, because it reminds me of a time when Western civilization made beauty. So Western civilization, don't weep when I say it, is also at the beginning of the end of a cycle, because beauty is dying. But beauty, Baldr, is also the first thing that is reborn. Because when you see what's going on with society and there's less beauty and you see things decaying and things getting worse, what happens is you start to lose the beauty in your heart. The world, the whole wave function is collapsing. And when you identify too much with it, you die with it. You are dragged in with this Ragnarok. But if you align yourself with beauty, if you continue to create beauty, if you continue to love and see beauty, You will be the first to be reborn and life will go on through you because Baldr will be alive inside of you. That is the meaning of this myth. You understand cycles. I'll give you another example. If you have like a career or a nice job, right? Nice job. They've been doing that for 10 years. What's the first thing that you lose when you start to lose your job? You fail to see the beauty in it. You do this job for 10 years and suddenly you realize that you don't see the beauty in it anymore. That's the first sign of your job Ragnarok. That's the first sign of you moving on to something else. So see if you can implement this in your own life. It works in a yearly cycle because cycles are always found in nature and everything moves according to nature. So this is just a year, but it works in 10 years. It works in civilizations. They last 2,000, 2,500 years, and the same rules apply. Now, what amazes me and what really opens my heart is how intelligent you have to be to craft a myth that understands the essence of natural cycles and who tells them in a way that is entertaining. Like there's a story of a man with a hammer and with a snake and a serpent that the kids love it. And that encompasses the essence of cycles and the essence of life that 5,000 to 10,000 years later, we still don't know how old these myths all are because it's just oral tradition for many generations. But 10,000, let's say 10, there we're still talking about it. And we can still distill, we can still pull the essence out of these stories and it can still enrich our lives. That alone should tell you that the lie that we've been told, like, oh, everything was so uncivilized until the Christians came and then everything was great. It's not true at all. This is incredibly sophisticated storytelling and I don't think I'll ever stop loving it. So, let me know if you think my interpretation of the myth of the death of Baldr is okay. Please check out Tribe of the Fox, Stam of the Vos for Nederlanders. They give some nice courses. And I'll see you all in a week or two. Ga met de goden.